And we are live. Welcome, everyone. This is the Free Flowing Saturdays. Is a live show that we conduct. Me and a good friend of mine. I'll be introducing him quite shortly. So, welcome. My name is Andrew Mutua. We do this every Saturday from 7 p.m. East Africa time, and we are streaming live on YouTube. We're also streaming live on Yeah Africa. Um, We'll be sharing the link for that. So thank you once again for your time and for joining us to this great show. This one definitely, this one is for the books. I have the entire team, what I call the MVPs. If you're familiar with that term, it's a sports term, which generally means the most valuable players. And I've got with me some great friends of mine. I consider them great minds, and the men that are doing a difference in their respective fields. And I'll be bringing them in. I want to engage with them on a conversation on various topics. And I hope you join us through this time. And without further ado, let me bring in my co-host. He is a chemical engineer. He also terms himself as a solutions architect. He is currently working on an e-mobility project. We are looking for that. It will probably be one of the groundbreaking projects we've seen in this new space that we are in as we transition to new forms of energy, new forms of transportation. And he is a fellow Kenyan coming all the way from Athi River in Machakos County. It's about 30 minutes south of Nairobi, our capital city. So join me in welcoming Brian Ngudi Juma.
All right.
How you doing?
Asante sana, karibu sana. It's FFS Free Flow Saturday episode 41.
Yes.
And we are rambling as usual.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Let me bring also on stage so that we have the complete MVP circle, as I call it.
Yes.
We've got two guests that are joining us. One is a brother. He hails from the shores of Lake Victoria, I think somewhere in Kisumu, Homa Bay County, somewhere in and around there. But he's currently based out of Kampala, Uganda. He calls himself an ethnobotanist. I don't know what that exactly means. I think we'll get to hear it from the horse's mouth. He's also an entrepreneur in the fintech space. So we'll also get to know what are the products he's selling around that. And with that, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Paul Mboya. I think we should have some kind of drum rolls. I'll try and put in some drum rolls. Maybe I might
Make
have
a drum roll or a trumpet. Some
I
sort
do
of a
have that.
trumpet.
Yes, Andrew and Juma.
Yes, sir. Karibu sana, karibu sana.
Yeah.
Asante sana.
Yeah, and there's one more guest who comes all the way from South Africa, the land of Shaka Zulu. And I don't know where he's gone to. He's not in the room yet. And kind of like an anticlimax of sorts.
Yes,
But
he has been hit by load shedding.
I don't know if he's been hit by load shedding or what's the problem, eh? So let's see. Let me try and get him. In the meantime, let me share this link so that we can cast it on Yeah Africa. And then we can start the show. And weird with all these stops and so guys, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andrew.
Happy to have Paul joining us for the first time ever.
Yeah, well, you are our first guests. It's normally a two-man rambling show. We call ourselves a couple of ramblers.
Yes.
Normally say that you don't blow your own trumpet, let someone blow your trumpet for you. So we refer to ourselves as a couple of ramblers here. And it's good to have Paul Mboya here. Paul Mboya, you really came out very powerful. We saw your efforts, you saw your campaigns for the SASMA award, the work you did to ensure that the GOAT, Andrew Kibe, got the accolade that he duly deserved. And I actually thought that if this was a sort of political campaign, hiyo ni presidency ingechukuliwa. Imagine if this was presidential.
Yeah.
You could have won
And
it. The mobilization that you showed was fantastic. And I think let's just switch over to you. Today is about Africa and the SASMA awards.
Yes.
We let Paul Mboya just give us the genesis of all this. I don't want to talk so much. Paul Mboya, take it from here. How did it begin? The motivation, and up, from the thought, conceiving the idea of you doing what you did, and up to the point where you made that speech. They actually called you and asked you, "Did you recite this speech?" So please, Paul Mboya, take it away. Take it away.
And maybe
So-
before, let me bring in Mark Duke actually. So our fourth
can see
guest is actually here. Yes. So let me introduce him. So yes, so we now have the two MVPs here with me. There's a third wheel, if you might call it as such. So he's our brother from another mother, hailing all the way from South Africa, the land
South
of Shaka Zulu. He calls himself a marketing guru and strategist. Join me in welcoming Mark Duke.
Karibu sana. Welcome on board, Makduk. Oh yes, that's the man himself.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I've done everything, man. I've pulled all the stops, all the bells and whistles in welcoming you guys. And I want to say thanks for honoring our invite and for joining us in this show. I think Paul had, or rather Brian had already started off with the first question around SASMA. We saw that great, and I want to play actually that video of when Kibe was announced as the winner, and you guys got on stage. That's in Santon Convention Center. Paul gave that amazing speech. I'm trying to get the video, and I realize it's not on YouTube, but I think we'll have to use the one on
Twitter.
On Twitter, yeah. Is there somebody who has a quick link to it? Let me check from Paul's. Paul, could it be on your hand? TL. It could be on your TL, huh?
Yeah, Kibe actually posted it. You can check it.
There's a 1 minute one, but I want the longer version. So let me try and see if I'll pull it up quickly. Sorry, guys, I should have had this one ready to go. But we're pulling it right now. Being a live show, this kind of things happen.
Should be on speed dial.
Yeah, I think as you look for it, we can get.
Yeah.
So
go ahead. Get started.
Yeah. So Brian, remember in the initial episodes of FFS, Paul Mboya is there because we would host it 3 people. We'd actually do the show 3 people. So at least in the initial episodes, somebody will find the Paul Mboya in that particular place. And as Andrew is looking for the video, you can also see I'm cladded in the Africa match.
Nice. Fully branded.
Fully branded.
Wonderful.
McDuke, you should have come with the Springboks jersey. You guys are still in a celebratory mood. I know they are going around the country. I've actually found the video. I think we could go straight to it. Let me share it, play it, so that it sort of sets the stage to
Sets the
sort
tone.
of the question that Paul has just posed to the two of you. Let me get that up right now. I got it on Nira's. This is it. Let me start it.
Let's my head, bana besu. Andrew Kibe. This one I got. Ladies and gentlemen, Dumelani. My name is Paul Mboya. Here on behalf of Andrew Kibe, came to South Africa for the first time to receive this award on behalf of Andrew Kibe. And from East Africa, I want to take this opportunity to tell South Africa that what you've done in SASMA is what Africa desires. And you're taking an opportunity to take the lead for this continent. The second thing that I would wish to say is that Andrew Kibe has won not only SASMA, but you've given him a platform to stand to share something new that he has come up with. He has developed a content sharing platform called Africa. You've seen the gentleman taking videos there. It's a platform that is live streaming as we speak at the moment at only 3 months old. Africa is developed in Kenya for Africa, standing on the shoulders of South Africa to share what we know best. Lastly, social media has given us an opportunity that we've not seen for very long. It is that fireplace that we lost years back. And today we don't have to read to learn. We only need to talk to learn and share the things we are not able to write.
Boom. So that
Yeah.
was the
Boom.
Unbelievable.
The Mandela speech.
Mandela speech.
We have Mr. Lutu family, one of our normal day-to-day, week in, week out audience, Lutu family. Karibu sana. We are in the presence of two gentlemen, one Mr. Paul Mboya and Mr. Makduk, two individuals who have played a major role in setting up the first ever African platform, authentic African platform. So, Paul Mboya, just take it from here. Give us the entire story. We don't want to speculate. Oh, ilikuwa hivi, he thought it was like this. No, it is now. We are giving you the steering wheel. We've been dancing on the cockpit for a while now. Makduk, you are the pilot, and Mboya, you are the co-pilots. Fly this thing now. We are tired. Fly it. Take it from here.
Thank you, Andrew and Juma, for this opportunity to share again our experience and the things that we went through or learned throughout the journey to getting Andrew Kibe winning the award in South Africa. So to let you know, I picked up the interest of supporting the voting from Twitter. When Gail would always put out the post about Kibe being nominated in South Africa for the Social Media African Star of the Year. And I voted once, but the sharing kept on coming, for people to vote. And as Ngeo kept talking about it, I saw the tiredness that came with requests for people to vote for Andrew Kibe. But most important, her belief in Andrew Kibe taking over the award. And as time went, the votes were not coming in to the number that was expected. But I also didn't know how to get the results. They were right there on the website, but I did not know how to get to know the results. So one time, sitting and trying to think how we can be able to get the votes rising, I wanted to ask Ngeo to send me the results on the performance so as to know how people are voting. But as I scrolled through the website, I got to see a button that was sending me to the results page. And only to my surprise that we were still number 2, and the first contender or nominee was already flying in the thousands, and we were less than that. So immediately I thought to myself, without even consulting Gail on how to find a way to make people vote. And then I took it upon myself to say, let me find the best way to make sure that I can be able to share and make noise on this through the timeline so that we can get more and more people voting. Now, strategy 1 was how to get this link in people's faces and make it interesting rather than appeal and begging way, making it fun. So as we kept on sending out messages, I started seeing more and more people sharing the link, and I was like, let me now be able to work with these people, not anonymously, but without consultation, make it fun on the timeline so that we get people on board. Now, as you know, the nominee, for very long, he has been talking about sexuality and people's behavior around sexuality. So I looked for something that would be able to link us to what his content has been about. And within the numbers of voting came up a 69. So I decided to throw out a 69, and I looked for somebody who would also be able to understand the message and make it fun, you know, so that it starts making a difference and bring fun into the voting. So I tweeted out a number. I think I still have it on my phone. It was, I think, 4,169, the first number that had a 69 that I tweeted out. And I told Mariam, there is a 69 here, and I'm very sure you know something about it. Then she brought out the song on 69, and I said, that's it. We are going with that. I'm like, Mariam, you know this thing and you understand it, so let's get running with it. Now, after understanding where the results were, I now started pulling out the results and showing people so that they would have an interest and this kind of anxiety to know when are we going to get the next 69. So that was the big deal. Then Geo took it up to now start putting in targets. In the beginning, we had huge targets, which were not achievable within a day. So after learning that, we then cut it down to be able to now start using it on hundreds and then the 200 targets. And within those 200 targets, we kept mentioning the 69 number. And good enough, the ladies within our timeline picked it up and then created their own group called the 69 Gang. So that now became a way of updating and creating this anticipation of the next number. Now, after realizing that people are now getting interest and were seeing the results, I looked for the next angle to kind of create interest. And now this was the calculation to estimate when we are going to get the next set of votes or the next number of targets. Now, at the beginning, it was very interesting because we were now able to get these numbers almost close to the accurate figure. So there was that interest of now seeing what was happening. And then before we knew it, we got closer to the first nominee and were able to tip it over. Now, after tipping the numbers over, we started doing requests for now the KOT, KOX, the South African community online or on Twitter, on X, tagged them. And then I did a tag on Kenyans versus Nigerians without knowing that one of the nominees was Nigerian. And I was told, are you going to wake up the Nigerian community to vote? That's when I realized that the nominee, who was now the second nominee, actually had over 1.2 million followers on Twitter alone. Now we got scared, but then I said, it's fine. Let's see how it goes. Let's then wake them up because they also have their citizen as a nominee, and we can now be able to see the competition. And probably in years to come, when we talk about Kenyans versus Nigerians, we'll have something to reference. So that one passed. So we kept on doing the targets and then started setting the new targets of doing a double, the second contender's votes. By the time I woke up to do the double of second contender's votes, that's when now I realized the number of days that were left to the end of voting. So the first energy to become number one, I knew that the voting was going to end in just a number of weeks. only to look at the days left, and there were about 32 days. Now we had to come up with new strategy to maintain the energy for 32 days, because based on calculation, the numbers that we had would take the second contender just 7 days to beat us. So we had to look for a way to keep the momentum for 32 days. So one of them was now to keep, the first one was to double the second contender's votes to make sure that we keep the energy running. When we achieved that, we started making small steps and said we have to triple the second contender's votes. But this was guided by calculation, because I realized that votes were coming in at about a minute. Every minute we would get one vote. Now, when I calculated backwards to know how long it would take the second contender to beat us, it would be 7 days. So my calculation was to look for how many votes do we need to get for this person not to be able to pass us within 7 days. So that's why we started doing the double, the triple, and then we go to the quadruple votes of the second contender. Now, keeping the momentum on timeline would be a problem. So one of the evenings I said, let me put up a space so that we can be able to talk and discuss and do mobilization of the voting through a space. I was outside Kampala by that time. I think I was in part of West Nile, if I'm not wrong, part of West Nile. So I put up the space. The network was so bad, we were able to hold it for about 30 minutes, then it dropped. Second time it dropped, and the third time it dropped. So one of the guys on the spaces was Pierre. But before Pierre joined, the first two spaces before they dropped, I had Karembo, who came in, and some other ladies. I think it was Karembo and Mudhoni. So I put Karembo to be like the co-host, because now my network was disturbing me. So she would drive and then explain about what she understood about SASMA and why it is important to us. So we got that connected. So the spaces failed. Then Pierre took it up. I asked Pierre to host the space. I'll be the co-host. And then he took it up and ran with it. It joined very well. Now, day one, the spaces were a little bit chaotic and we did not have enough content. So I had to go to the drawing board and look for a way to be able to keep this momentum. Now, during that time is when Kibe had just introduced the Africa, and he did a live once, then it went out. He did not sustain it for long. So I looked for a way to connect Africa to Andrews Kibe win of Social Media Africa Star of the Year. And we had discussion with Pierre. In fact, we would have long discussions in the night, even after having these spaces going on. Every time we would finish the spaces, no matter the time, we would embark on a voice call on WhatsApp to try and compare notes and see how we would be able to carry it on the following day to keep the energy running. Because remember, we had it for 30 days now. And these days have to be accounted for hour by hour, day and night, keep the energy up there for us to win the votes. So then we craft it and put it on Africa and say, this award is not just for Kibe to win. When we get this award, then we will popularize the Africa. Now that became the next story, and it became a content now for us to be able to push Africa and the award during the evening spaces after the day spaces. Then we started doing commercial breaks within our spaces, and also learned that we need to do these commercial spaces, breaks in Kibe's spaces, because part of the strategies we would have, Gail would always talk about, let's go to other spaces and introduce and request for voting. And we said, why invade other people's spaces, yet Andrew Kibe also has a space, and we can be able to talk about the same thing in his space. So that's what gave birth to commercial breaks in Andrew Kibe's space. So we told Kibe, we cannot be asking people to give us time to popularize your voting, yet you have space and we cannot do the same. So we became the advert breaks in Kibe's space. Then we started encouraging everybody within the spaces that we would have. If you have time, open up a space, talk about the voting, mobilize the votes. We will all be there, even though we might not be able to do to host the space. So they started coming up. It started becoming interesting. We started looking for topics to be able to discuss, share experiences, and then the most important was now to do awareness of Africa. Now, my interest of Africa is built on general interest on IT. And then I see more features and benefits, and then I started creating this interest in Africa, and I would be able to be there, respond about Africa, talk about the features, and after interacting with it, I would be able to see these things and break them down in simpler language for people who would not understand the tech side, but also avoiding the challenges that were happening. So talk about the bright side. So it created interest. So we'd have more people coming. Then we'd also look for solutions to some of the hurdles that we would face while trying to vote. Some of them coming up with the incognito mode and how we can be able to overcome that, refreshing the browser for us to be able to continue voting, the IP address being open so that you can be able to vote with more than one device, rather than just one device. We started talking of how we can be able to talk to neighbors, the friends, parties where people go, and all this became strategies to be able to get more votes. So it helped us to go more. But there is also something that I thought about. There are people who feared to identify in public with Kibe's content. And to some of them, probably they thought if they voted, it will be known that they voted for Kibe. So we started saying, no, voting is anonymous. At some point, I think you'd see that in the timeline. Voting is anonymous. Just vote. Nobody will know that you voted Andrew Kibe. So just go ahead and vote. Everything is anonymous. Your name is not pinned to all this. It will just be the vote that you're counting. So we started seeing the numbers coming up. And on realizing that we're already at the top, there are now people who would identify with him being now the first person. So the interest also grew and people continued voting. Now, Diesel was assigned to
Paul,
actually go to
let
some.
me-
Yes.
Paul, let me step in a bit here. Yeah, I can hear it's quite an elaborate story, and it's good you've detailed it as you have. One, how you jumped on it after Angel had sort of set the initial, had ignited the initial flame. You are, I think, one of the few, or probably the only guy who decided to take it up upon himself. And I wonder, I think the question is, what made this possible? None of you sat in, Kibe didn't call any of you guys and said, hey guys, let's form a committee around how we are going to raise votes. Actually, him as a nominated person, he was at first quite reluctant in terms of promoting it. He said, yeah, if you're going to vote, vote. But he didn't even think he had a chance to win. And he didn't even want, or he wasn't even motivated to push it on. It was after you and Ngeo and everyone else who was quite keenly connected and participated in this. That's when he decided, hey, okay, let me start paying attention here. But my question is then, what do you think is, because it's very hard to create a community that is almost self-driven, and this is a question that I'll push to both you and Mark Duke, and Paul, you can also contribute on this one. What is it that it's sort of a self-organizing group? You guys were driven, you saw an opportunity and took on that initiative and decided to drive it on. You didn't ask for permission from Kibe or anyone else. You took it upon yourself, and it was like it was your responsibility. It is all self-driven. It's amazing to have, when you think about it, it's not many organizations where you can have, and I don't know if I have the right terms or words to use for this, where you have almost, it's a grassroots type driven movement that is self-driven, that even doesn't require the leader to, if we term our Kibe as our leader, to then, either organize and sort of mobilize towards a goal. It was like, yes, we've all seen this is our goal. And there was also a coming together of minds. You are in Kampala, you had Ngeo in South Africa, but it's like you're all synchronized. And then you had the likes of Pierre, the Njeris and the Mutonis and others that jumped on that bandwagon and organized it. It's probably a pretty long-winded question, But I don't know if you get the gist of it, because it's when you think about it, it's not an everyday thing where you have this kind of a move, if I might call it as such.
Yeah, let me allow Mark Duke to start because I've rambled for quite some time. Mark Duke, take it. What inspired you to get onto this as you?
You're muted, Mark. You're muted, Mark Duke. You're muted.
Duke, unmute.
Okay. Now we hear. I don't know if you gentlemen have seen the Lord of the Rings. So there's a character, I forgot the name of the character. So he is going with Fredo. I'm trying to get his name, but he's the one who is going with Fredo. He's responsible for him. Oh, sorry about that. He's responsible for him. So in the movie, what we know is that Fredo is the one going to the promised land, but the partner is the one taking him through the journey. So my role here is I was not really a part of the campaign, but I was more, Paul was more of Fredo. And I was the guy taking him through South Africa, taking him through South Africa and making sure that I support him. So that was my role. So in that, what I've seen with the campaign, it was so organized. I think I've played my role with SMSs. I voted incognito, different Wi-Fi zones. But my main business activity was to take care of Paul. And what I've seen with the campaign, it's something that I've never seen before. I mean, total strangers, people who don't know each other, people who've never met each other. We only meet each other behind the mics of our phones and behind the screens of our phones. But the unity and the unism and the passion and the enthusiasm that went into the campaign was just so amazing. I was also introduced to new characters. I've never actually known Piri. Is it Pierre? Yeah, Pierre. What I know about Pierre is that Pierre is always on Kibe spaces, but he is never he's never interactive. But I met him through his spaces. I have been introduced to Njeri. There has been George, there's been Bilal. So there were different characters that I got introduced to. And Mnyamwezi was just on fire, Ngeo was on fire, Mariam, all the whole band was on fire. But that was not my role there. That was not my role. My role was me taking Fredo to the promised land so that he can deliver the king, the ring to the king. So that was my role.
So, Makduk, you were like the ATC, air traffic control. The plane has been in the air. Now Makduk tells you, now Paul Mboya, you are clear to land on this runway, taxi to gate number 4. We are refueling you here. We are refreshing you so that at the time of collecting the award, Paul Mboya looks fresh. So you were not looking disheveled, you were looking well taken care of. So we can say that Makduk was the air traffic control officer for Paul Mboya, ensuring that the aircraft called Paul Mboya landed properly, and the cargo called the SAMSA Award was well received and safely flown back to where it belongs. So maximum gratitude to Makduk. And what Paul Mboya has described and what actually both me and my co-host Andrew Mutua, we found to be a bit not puzzling but interesting is how people can function without, you can't say without oversight. No oversight.
Yeah.
No direction. It's just understanding what needs to be done and doing it. Now imagine if this was a company that operated like this. Imagine if this was a country or a government that operated like this, whereby you don't need to ask, oh, send me the report for this. We should have a meeting for this. How come this is not working? People getting from it's like I call it, I normally say, there's nothing like lion school or leopard school. A lion knows what to do. There's no college for lions where the lion goes, it gets certificate for hunting. Say, I don't know, the vice chancellor says, I now give you the power to hunt. No, those lions understand the system and do what they need to do. And these being lower life forms, it's a bit sad that we, the so called intelligent people, the so called higher life forms, have to be overwatched, oversight, supervision. But here you are, a group of individuals, Paul Mboya, Makduk, Njeri, the lady Ngeo, coming together, no script, no rehearsal, no instructions from some big office, but somehow everyone knows what to do at what time, at what place. And for this, I wish I could hand some medals or some very major, I don't know, Brian Juma, Andrew Mutua accolade, because what you've done is, imagine this. This can be a roadmap for corporate organization. Because
And think about
when you
it,
look at
even political organization.
yes,
You know, when I
imagine
reflect on it, I say
Mm.
it's a movement of leaders, not a movement of followers, because each of us at our respective, whatever initiative we decide to take on, we took it on without seeking permission and we delivered. And for some sense, there was no one who told us this is our mission, vision, goal, whatever. But for some reason, we were all connected around a particular goal. And we worked in our respective roles perfectly. Makduk, you might not have been involved in pushing or campaigning for the votes, but you delivered on the task that you had. You know, you picked Paul right from the airport. You know, showed him great hospitality. You hosted him while in South Africa. You were there to provide a local service provider. I mean, this coming together of people never met one another, never seen each other, but we were all joined towards one goal. I mean, this is something actually that needs to be studied. And if there's
I
some
think
kind of
maybe you should
framework,
write a book. A book should be written, or some sort of a manual, organization manual, can be written out of this, because there was no supervision,
Yeah.
there was no oversight, there was no weekly reporting or daily reporting or no feedback. Somehow everyone knew what to do. It's like the human body. Uh,
Yeah.
the right hand does not tell the left hand what to do, but somehow the left hand knows what to do. The right hand doesn't give feedback to the left hand that this is where. No, like when you're walking like this. This hand does not tell this one, okay, you remain behind so that when I move like this, you know, it's like a well-crafted system. And when people behave like, uh, you see, it will take a lot of resources for another group to do this. People have to sit in meetings and deliberate and storm and have arguments over how they see things. Then, after, I don't know, a week, we have consensus. Then you discover that consensus was wrong, another meeting, and we waste time in meetings. And here we are, a group of individuals who have never met physically. They identified, this is where we are going. I'll do this, you do this, the other person does that, and we meet at the end. That's why I'm insisting that if Paul Mboya, you have very good English, if you can come up with some sort of a manual or a booklet that breaks down everything from the word go, uh, it can be used in so many industries, because we need this. We need this organization. I will not call it unity. I will call it being target minded, and whereby the target is common. Because unity has some undertones of activism again, and we are not really into that. It's about identifying the target. Then each one will decide how we are going to hit that target. We meet at the front. As Makduk in Swahili, we say, tukutane mbele in Swahili. So I don't care how you got there, but let's just meet there. You can come swimming, flying, you can come with a parachute or whatever, submarine, hakuna shida. Let's meet there. I think that aspect of people not being told what to do, but knowing the goal played a major role. Imagine if you had a situation whereby Kibe in Texas is issuing instructions, do this. It could have been a mess. Andrew, you are muted. It could have been a complete stinking mess. But
And just imagine even the time it takes to get people's buy-in. You know, it's like putting people in a room, telling them
Yes.
this is our goal, trying to convince
Yes.
them why we are doing it. Here we didn't even have that time or we were all sold on that target. We were all sold on that
Yes.
goal.
yes.
There was no point of buying, trying to continue to cajole you and massage. And you know, you never know. There might have been other people that were shooting other ways.
Well, it's more like when
Yeah,
you are given
and-
the task of pushing a cart and you are pushing it downhill. You know, it's so easy. You just put a finger
Very
and
easy, yeah.
and we are gone. So I think, and I'll insist on Tom where try to come up with a write-up or something, because this is a story that has to be shared in text. Someone somewhere has to read it, even in, maybe there could even be a children's version, so that we start shaping this thing from grassroots. So Makduk, back to you. You were saying something? Makduk,
Yes,
I thought you
I
were
was
speaking.
saying that when you really think about it, we met on our ability to deliver. Everybody, check 1, 2. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Mark.
You're okay. You're okay, Makduk.
Okay,
You're
they
very
seem
okay.
to. Yeah, there seem to be a bit of audio delay, but what I was saying is we met on our ability to deliver. Everybody met was like had a role, and they took that ability to deliver. So it was more about collaboration and less about friendship. Even though we relate with each other well, but the main purpose of the day was to not relate with each other like we relate to each other. It was about us being able to deliver. You know, whether you are having a good day or you're having a bad day, at the end of the day, delivery was a delivery. So it was more of a requirement, because I mean, like Brian is saying, everybody was on their line. Everybody was on their line. Everybody did their role perfectly. So I think each and every one of us understood that this is my time to deliver. And even though there were a bit of ups and downs, it was not easy. There were a bit of ups and downs, but the delivery and the enthusiasm, the action and the execution was more powerful than those ups and downs that we had at the moment.
Wonderful,
you.
wonderful, wonderful. So, Paul Mboya,
Also-
can we? Yes, Paul.
Also, to add on it, you know, you've asked what motivated me to do this. The moment I heard Kibe talk about Africa and saw the input of the developers being in place, and he had already done the first trial and it worked, I knew immediately that he is only missing somebody to talk about the product and make noise. That's one thing I saw, because I've had challenges of putting up my application and wondering how to take them out there. So I saw Kibe was already done with that. Now, coming of Africa, to me, and as I'll be calling it, Africa was a place for Kibe to stand to talk about. SASMA was a place for Kibe to stand and talk about Africa. And I was like, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to tell him to do it. And you know, some of the I did and we've been doing is what Kibe has been saying in spaces. If you know something, don't tell me to go and do it, and then you want to judge me based on your ideology or your thoughts. Go run with it, and then tell me how I come in. And inspiration is there was also other work that we did with Kibe, which also pushed me to this level. So when I had this second opportunity of holding this and doing my part, as Makduka said, I was like, I don't need any permission. I know where I'll get in, and I know when I'll inform Kibe probably, and just run with it, you know. So it was just about running, and everybody was running, and they knew the part they would play so well, to a point of nobody was instructed on what to do. When it came to evening, Pierre would be there on spaces at the right time, connections would be done, and members would come in, and people would speak of what they know about Africa and what they know about Kibe and what they are building. And now what you're saying, in fact, Pierre's spaces, what he's turning into is, what are you building? As we head towards talking about the graduation, so that we use what we have created now to push everyone. As Brand is saying, we are not just going to study it, right? We are not writing anything. We are speaking. That's our strength. And I'll call it our African strength is passing information through word of mouth. You get? And the Africa is the place to get this thing. And we are not just going to speak it or write it. Writing is good. We can document that. We are going to act it. The community is saying, who is next? What do you have? In fact, part of the spaces is to grill everyone to be able to sell their product. Now, the moment the community buys into the product, then we know what to say. And then now we don't ask you to tell us anything. We will run, and everybody will run with it to the best of their knowledge. So right now what we're doing is asking, who has what? How bought are you into the product that you have? Then let's use the same mechanism that we've had to run with it. So, Brad, that's where we are now. That's where we are going to deploy what we've learned. That's how we are going to apply this community and the skills that, or the lessons that we've learned out of this. And George keeps insisting, you know, he says after 3rd of December, it is a different story. So everyone listening, just make sure you have your ticket to 3rd of December. Be able to sell what you have. Let the community buy into it. And then we will do what Andrew Mutua said. We are a community that is buying and selling at the same time. So how strong is this? And why not utilize it? Because Andrew is selling something that Brian does not have. And Brian will need to buy it. Then Andrew will have to buy the motorbike so that he can be able to reach the clients in person, probably. Makduk will also have to want entertainment in East Africa and be able to ride as he sees the people around while recording and posting his experience on Africa. He will need a motorbike. Tomorrow, Brian will want to go and visit a health facility. If the services are not there in Kenya, probably will go down south. And who knows the doctors who are offering this service? It is Makduk. So we have a community that is almost self-supporting at this time. And when we see one person already has a product out there, and me, I can be able to talk and position it, why not? Do I still need permission to do that? I don't even need to say that I need to be paid, because I know how the payment will come. Tomorrow, he will talk about the product that I have, and the community will listen. And this is what I always say with the entrepreneurship in our context. Out there where people have made money, the investment is financial. In our place where we don't have the money, the investment is social. We put in our skills like what we've done. Otherwise, Kibe would not afford this budget if it was about being budgeted. Where do you get somebody to do your PR? I don't know to write content. Oh, copywriting. We are now doing the speech. We need an office with an AC. Oh, you have to be picked with a very nice guy in SA because this is now a global or a continental product. We would not achieve it. Even in SA.
Maybe Paul, and probably you're a lot more connected to the development of Africa. How the coming together of also those, set of resources towards being able to bring up, being able to have a product which is, for all intents and purposes, was up and running in 3 months, a product of this magnitude, to have that set of committed, dedicated resources that came together to deliver on this, and they are continually now working to improve on the product. I think one role that you've been able to play very well, but I don't know if this will be ultimately your role, will be you've been a great product developer, a product manager. That's what I've seen so far. But I do have a question. One is, I think also this speaks to Kibe's type of leadership style. I mean, that ability to enable to be able to trust you, one, without knowing you in much more than a guy on Twitter Spaces that participates on his Twitter Spaces, and to entrust you to take on a project, an initiative, and hope that you will deliver. So if you could comment on that ability to have that trust, because some of our leaders, are in a sense very controlling. But for him to have the faith to know that this guy will be able to take this project on and see it through, I think is something worth looking at. So one, that type of leadership, and then two, I also like what Mark Dukas said, that it was more around collaboration than friendship, and it was about ability to deliver. So I think this is calling on each of us to be, one, results-oriented, action-oriented. It's not a matter of kuyumba-yumba too, and but what are you actually bringing to the table? And as you're saying, now this probably is the next level that this community is going to take on, that those that cannot deliver something substantive, those that don't have any results to show, will then be thrown by the wayside. So I don't know what you can also comment in and around that ability to deliver and being able to collaborate, despite, it's not a question of let's get to know each other, let's do, your typical corporate organization will talk of, doing team building so that we understand. But we never had any of that. That's why I even said earlier that there was even no point that we had a point where we were trying to do a buy-in of any sorts. The people that were coming in together all had the same motivation and were ready to pursue and deliver from their respective roles.
Yeah, so the trust has been a build-up. It didn't just happen because there were SOSMA awards and going to South Africa. So this is what happened. I think it was late December, early January this year. I would see Kibe's logo on YouTube keep shifting all the time. So I looked at that logo and tried to understand what his test would be. So I sat down and did a logo and included the presentation of the logo, because I'd been learning about branding before actually doing. So I did this logo and did a very nice presentation layout and sent it to Kibe and said, I think you need this. Immediately said, Paul, this is the thing. Let's get working. So one night, I think I have the date in one of my notebooks. After sending it to Kibe and he liked it, then he started telling me what to adjust. I was awake the whole night until 6 a.m. So after that, I didn't put a bill to it. But I was like, I'm helping you because and probably you need some good branding to get you where you want to be. So let me do my best on what I can be able to give to you. So I sent it out. It worked. So Kibe told me, Paul, I think I need to pay you on this. How much should it be? I said, okay, see whatever that you can. And you know how Kibe is. He's like, man, you need to talk about your value. So I put the thing and he sent the money and all went well. Later, the graphics designer asked me for some things. I was not able to do them. I told them I can't do that, but I'm going to give you something to guide you to get the logo done. They call it branding manual. So I did a mini or a micro branding manual and sent it to them. So it worked. After that, I got off Twitter. Then we did FFS for some time. Then also got off that. I had some things coming up, and during that time I was also working on this application, the shop application management system. I think I shared it with you at some point. Now, after picking up the interest in the African SASMA on Twitter Spaces with Pierre, we would rant. I knew there was a gap of somebody to speak for Africa. So I took it upon me with the little knowledge that I had, and also interacted with Eric Oyugi as the developer and got insight of what was happening. I did not interview Kibe or ask Kibe about Africa because it would not be the best. So I talked to Eric Oyugi, and after understanding, they really understood and knew what it is being part of. Actually, I've been a product development manager, a system development manager, as an analyst. So I'm able to pick information from a user, translate this to the developer, and then I do the testing and the user. So I ran with it. So one time we were ranting. We were ranting about Africa, that and why we need to get Kibe voted so that he can show Africa to the rest of the world. Because with that kind of title, he can walk into any country and say, yeah, I'm the star, and everybody will listen. So Africa would be very good to work with him on that path. So I took it upon myself to speak for Africa. Spoke. So later, we got to learn actually from Spaces that it is George who was in the space, learned about what he was saying, and then called in Kibe to listen. Before that space ended, Kibe called me and said, Paul, I want you to go to South Africa on Sunday. Are you ready? I said yes. At first, I was reluctant. And then he was like, no, don't be a social advocate in these things, because Diesel was supposed to go at first. But now the thing changed. It was now not just speaking the word, it was also selling a brand. Now, because of the speech and the covering I was giving for Africa, Kibe said, now you are supposed to. And the budget was tight in actual sense. So we could not go two people. Only one person had to go. So he asked me to go, and I said, yes, I'm ready. And that's it. I did not have speech for Africa and receiving the award until that evening after visiting the center, that I put out 4 bullets for speaking. And that's how it came. But good enough, it was more of putting together the same things that we had talked about in Spaces, and being at this point where I knew Kibe, I would say I understand Kibe, I understand his passion for the product, and I would say I understand what you want people to listen to. In fact, that evening, while in SA, I told Kibe, you need to record a speech. He has already talked about this online on his show, but he did not. But to me, it did not stop me. It was just a backup in case there would be an opportunity to play the video. And even if it would not be there, then we would put it as his acceptance speech anywhere online. So to me, it would not block me. So we went ahead and did the speech with Mark Duke on the side. Very interesting. Mark Duke played his part very well. The reception, the hospitality, moving around and preparing and talking so many other things about around the Africa and the community and the buy-in. It was interesting. Very interesting, I'll tell you. Maybe Mark Duke can add something.
Yes, Makduk, proceed.
I believe you can hear me clearly. I'm having internet difficulties today.
You are very okay.
Much better. Okay. Yeah. I think when Paul got in here, when we drove to my place, and then he started selling the vision of Africa. That was before he gave me the T-shirt. So immediately when you got home, I'm thinking 2 hours or so, he gave me a T-shirt, and then he started selling the vision of Africa. You know, Africa is a social marketplace. It's a place where people can sell products. It's a place where people can put up content. Now, the most important question of the day was, how can we actually explain, or how can we actually define what Yafrika is to the people without putting YouTube on the sentence? And then we started strategizing, and talking, because we didn't want our identity to be derived from YouTube. We didn't want to say Yafrika it's YouTube from Africa. So this is a streaming platform where you upload. No, we wanted an identity of our own, because this is something that has never been seen before. This is something that has never been thought before. This is actually something that is from the grassroots of Africa. So it had to have an identity of its own. And it had to be independent of any other streaming network, whether it's YouTube or whether it's Rumble. So we started saying Yafrika is actually a social marketplace. Yafrika is currency that you use to buy the future. Yafrika is the potential that you need to accomplish your mission. So we started attaching these terms to what Yafrika is. And then when that mission was painted together, I did not, I did, there wasn't a part where I saw Paul write the script, but I think the experience in its own, the talking, the touring, meeting the people, playing he also played me Amapiano, the Amapiano, just the experience in itself was rich enough to bring something out of life. So that's how I believe the speech came about, and it was like an international speech. When he got here, when he got there, what I loved about the speech was the silences in between, because the silences in between made people think. So those silences were not just empty words; those silences were powerful words that Paul was saying. That it's like people were listening to what was not being said. So the message was being projected, but between the silences, that's where the real juice and the real value of the message was, because it got people to think. So that's how the message was delivered. That's how we met Ngeo. And one interesting thing about meeting Ngeo, I've met her before. I mean, we in SA, and she lives like 15 kilometers away from me. So when Paul met Ngeo, it was not, "Hi, I'm Ngeo. Hi." It right on it. We meet each other. We know this is not how, this is how I look. No, no, no. It was not, "Wow, you look like this." No, I didn't expect. They met each other right there, right there. They picked up where they left. They picked up where they left from spaces, and it was like two people who have known each other for almost eternity, for almost forever. The way Paul and Ngeo met, and it was such a wonderful experience for myself. It was indeed a wonderful experience. As a matter of fact, I've been telling my clients that, what, this has been the best week of my 2023, the best week of my 2023, if not my life, because of, the brotherhood that me and Paul shared. I mean, we don't know each other, but the brotherhood that we shared, the ideas, the touring, it was like it's a he was like a big brother that I always wanted, and I was probably the little brother that he always wanted. So how that, how those passions got in together, those ideas got in together, those our energies got in together. It was just amazing. That's why the speech ended up like it did. It was not something that happened spontaneously. It was a crescendo of different events that piled up into one glorious speech that we'll never forget. For one award category that we will never forget, that was debuted at SASMA Award.
If I'm to sort of try to chip in my understanding of Africa, the social place for exchanging idea, Paul, can we call it Africa the virtual continent? That's my question for you. As we close it, can we call it our virtual continent, whereby I can go to South Africa online, I can go to Lesotho online, I can go to name it, because this is a virtual continent that I'll cross over to any country without buying a ticket, without using a passport, called the Africa virtual continent. Can we say it is something like that? Back to you, Paul.
I'll tell you, today Africa is, as an elephant is on our continent. And being our own and our finding, we will describe it in all forms. It is a marketplace, it is our virtual continent, and it has given that experience exactly of what you're calling it. We've had people who have learned what South Africa is just from description, from spaces, and they feel very connected. Mark Duke has learned from about East Africa because we'll do the comparisons, and we continue to learn. So it is our virtual continent. So Africa is an elephant to us. Every description is right, and it accommodates all. Every description is right, as long as it stands on its own. Every description is right. Because when Mark Duke picks it as a marketplace, he will run with it like it is the only thing that exists. Today we are streaming live. To a media person, that's what it is. And only a few people can stand from a distance and see the whole thing called the Africa. Kibe might be one of them. So some people are on the task, and it is all that they see. So it is our thing, and we see it as one of the best that we have on the continent, the big five. One of the big fives. I wonder where the next four will come from. But our effort will bring them out. We are not done. Africa is our business. And the pie is, the cake is big, as Andrew says. It's big. I wish I would describe how big it is. So it's as big as these elephants. So we can't finish it. No one can finish it. That should be our pride.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's been an honor. We've blasted 1 full hour with 2 super valuable guests today. You've made this show, I called it the Free Flow Saturday Coming Home Edition, because home is Africa. And today, Free Flow Saturday landed in Africa because Africa is home. Can hand over to my able host to give us the closing remarks as we say adios.
Brian, before you hand over, let me just take this opportunity and also talk about the merchandise for Africa. So, so these are available. We have the hoodies that are available. We have the Kife caps that are also available. Whether you are in Uganda, you are in SA, we can now be able to get this delivered. We are creating a very nice network underneath this platform. So it is not only online. We have a lot that will be out in reach in person for us to be able to deliver this. And some people wonder why we talk about the merchandise. This will popularize, but also raise money that will be used towards building Africa. So we don't want to say we are going out to beg or look for funds. The things are with us. We are learning how to make the money, how to get the revenue. Now we want to put it somewhere. So instead of just putting it and not seeing something in return, we give you a memorabilia, which is the merchandise. You know, so you have something, as much as you put it there in Africa, but you also remain with something that you can talk about and show to the people. So let's also get to know about this and make the orders. We have the contacts you can also contact, and we arrange on how you can be able to get the merchandise in your end. And whatever you do is a contribution towards the Africa. And not only Africa. There's also 3rd of December, the graduation venue. Please come. Let's talk about building. Let's learn these things and know. And then we will be having something little in the back of every business we do. The business secret. Some of the things that cannot be put on text, but we only pass it to you because you're present. So let's see, let's be there at the graduation and start learning how to get some of these things and have them passed through one another to each other, you know, and make it more powerful. And thank you, Brian and Andrew, for hosting us this evening. Unless Mark Duke also has something he can say before you take it up to close it.
Yeah, Thank you so much, gentlemen, for receiving us, for the brotherhood. I think the term, the MVPs, this is a mark that we've put there eternally. So it does not matter who comes and go. What we have done and the influence that we have placed out there, it shall forever be memorialized. So what Africa means to me, it's in every tongue of African. It's the conversation that already exists in our mind, and that is freedom. So Africa is the freedom that each and every African has been yearning for, deeply yearning for. This is the freedom that we have been yearning for, whether it's industrial, it's in manufacture, it's in textile, it's in technology, it's in medicine. This is the freedom that we have been deeply, deeply yearning for. And now we have the grandest opportunity in the world to grab it with violence, to grab it with both hands, and leave a blueprint for our family. One day we will be gone, long gone. Our names will be erased from history, but our influence and what we have done, what we have left into the world, will be packaged as Africa. And this will be the blueprint that our children and our children's children will use to find to find the promised land that they are looking for. This is the legacy that we're going to leave them. You know, the best legacy that you can leave your children is not money, but the best legacy that you can leave your children is wisdom, is knowledge. Because where there's no knowledge, there is suffering. And we have to end the suffering of Africa through this knowledge that we are having, that we are packaging in Africa. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Wow, what a great way to close. I mean, actually, the topic of building is one we need to even delve further, because it is actually the sort of the core, I think, of every initiative that we are taking on, either on a personal basis or the coming together as we are doing under the banner of Andrew Kibe, under the banner of Africa. I think the exciting thing I'm getting is Africa, in a sense, will be defined by all of us, because we see it from all different perspectives. It is, as what Paul said, that fireplace that we lost so long ago as Africans, the coming together where we share our wisdom, the coming together where we trade with one another, the coming together where we offer value to one another. And man, I think I've learned quite a lot. I was just going through the motions or rather sort of documenting as Paul was telling the story of how all this came about, from the first point when he took it on, to the point when they started the spaces, to the point of how they were strategizing on the campaigns, to the point of how he's been able to take on this Africa brand and own it. I think that's also the other thing. He owned it. He took it on as part of his own. How he's been able to build trust with Kibe, from that little point where you offered him value by way of the logo, to the point where you elevated it by giving him a branding guideline, and now to this where he was able to entrust you to go and represent him in taking on the award. And now I hear you might be also going to Dubai. We'll see. But this is all great. I think it's a challenge to each of us to identify where can we take on a gap and own it, because as we say, the cake is bigger, and this is a platform that we can all participate in. Wow, what a space, what a live session. I think we need to do more of this. So I'll be calling on you guys every so often. Whenever you find time, please jump on this live, and let's share wisdom, let's share ideas, and let's see how we can continually advance ourselves and our various efforts. Brian, I don't know if you have anything to say as we close.
My job is only to say adios. So can I say adios and we close? Adios.
See ya.